The films we're covering on this series include Top Gun, Short Circuit, Ruthless People, and The Karate Kid Part 2. These movies embody summer movie escapism. Extremities, on the other hand, is not your typical summer movie. Released on August 22nd, 1986, and adapted from a popular stage play, Extremities tells the story of a young woman who turns the tables on her would-be rapist. The film starred Farrah Fawcett in a breakthrough performance, and James Russo, one of our most intense and versatile character actors, whose work can also be seen in films like Once Upon a Time in America, Beverly Hills Cop, and Public Enemies. In this conversation, Mr. Russo discusses the origins of the Extremities project, beginning with his involvement in the stage play version, the experience of working with actress Farrah Fawcett, and a few of the other film credits that grace his resume. How long before the film was the stage play first mounted?
It was October of '83, because it's funny, I had been cast also in Once Upon a Time in America in the same week, or it was like, I think 10 days in between.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember because I was driving a taxi in Manhattan, and I remember the audition, because in those days, we didn't have cell phones, so I would stop in between fares and check my phone at home, with the answering machine to see if the agent called. And I remember him had left like 6 or 7 messages to get over and to this studio and read for this play, which I really wasn't interested in doing theater at the time,
Mm-hmm.
And I went in there and read for Susan Sarandon and Robert Ackerman. And I think I can remember I was in a bad mood or something, and I went in there with that attitude, and read, ran out, and I said, "Oh man, did I fucked that up?" And that was it, man. They were nailed. They wanted me.
That bad attitude must have helped.
Yeah, it must have. It was like 4 or 5 hours of driving around in Manhattan traffic and then going in to do that, And I think we went to rehearsals. I saw it. It's like so long ago. I think it was sometime around October of '83, and then the film we shot in '85.
That was a great week for you to get a part in a Sergio Leone film and Extremities within 10 days.
Yeah, I think it was in a 10-day or around. I know it was real close, like a little bit over a week, where both those jobs had come to me.
Wow. So the play Extremities and the part of Joe. This is a tough part. It's a tough piece.
And it was very tough for me because at the time, I had gone to NYU Film School to make films. I had no interest in the theater. I had never been on a stage prior to that. I had a fake resume that a girlfriend at the time made up, where I'd have all these plays and Jean Genet's Death Watch and, Romeo and Juliet, whatever was on there, And, and I had no stage experience whatsoever. I hadn't trained as an actor, really. The training ground for me was NYU Film School. I got into acting accidentally because I was doing sound or something on a movie, over there, and the actor didn't show up.
But tell me about the experience of putting it together and your thoughts on that character, what you wanted to accomplish with that character.
Well, it was very hard for me. First of all, because of the stage technique I did not possess. So I went into it very raw. Up until opening night, I still didn't know the lines. But for that character of Raul, basically. In the play, he was Hispanic. I didn't play it Hispanic. I didn't have the theater technique. I didn't know how to memorize lines. I didn't. I would have my back to the audience. So I approached it in a very raw, kamikaze, on-the-job training type approach. And it fit for that character, I mean, if it had been Shakespeare or Deaths or something, it would have been disastrous, But it fit for that character. And that my approach to it was very, I don't give a shit, this is it, If I get fired, I don't care. And the energy I put into that, worked,
Yeah. Well, this is what interests me about acting and actors, because this role you had revisited and lived with for the better part of 2 years or more, from stage to film. How did your conception of the part, how did your approach to the part change from the beginning of that journey to the end with the film?
It changed every day. It evolved every day as I got comfortable being on stage, feeling the audience, at first it was me and Susan Sarandon and Ellen Barkin in the original play. Me and Susan, there was a lot of friction between me and Susan. I was very green to the process, and they were not, the girls in the play didn't like my, approach to this unorthodox approach to doing this, And a lot of it was out of fear and insecurity. I didn't know, if I could do it, and, so it was looking back, it was very hard for me. There was a lot of pressure on me, up until opening night. I thought I was going to get fired. As a matter of fact, there was I forget his name, Michael Donnelly, I think his name was. He was the understudy. He would just wait in the wings like a vulture, hoping I would get canned. And by opening night, I had it down. I just nailed it opening night, and I got very good reviews, and the play was very successful. And I evolved, you know what I mean, doing it.
Yeah. And
then Karen Allen came in halfway through the run, and then it was a different play altogether, because my interaction with Susan was very different than Karen. And then when Farrah came in, it changed it completely. So it was almost like 3 different plays. I adapted to whatever woman was doing it.
It does change. It does have to change the chemistry of it. So tell me about Farrah and what power she brought to it and what she brought out in you.
At first, when they said Farrah Fawcett was going to come do the play, I wanted to get out. I was like, oh my God, Charlie's Angels, you got to be kidding me, And I knew the reasoning for doing it was to, boost the box office, and because it was slacking off when Karen was in there, and I guess they were ready to close it. I can't remember, but it wasn't doing well. Farrah came in, and I remember during the rehearsal period, of like, wow, this woman's really putting out, and she kind of. Because at that point I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had done like 100 shows, and it was starting to get old hat for me. She revitalized me. She made it more. I think it was more sexual with Farrah. It definitely got more intense. She brought it up to a really high level of intensity, and it turned out that people were coming in the standing room. I was really surprised. She was great on stage. She's very good in the movie.
She is very good in it. And in terms of the movie, I mean, stage is one thing because there's a continuity. You're able to take the character from the beginning of the play to the end. In film, it's a little more intensive on each moment. Tell me about that back and how that back and forth between you and Farrah was different on screen than on stage.
on stage, you the funny thing about doing a play, you could be sitting there with your friends at like 4:30, you know what I mean, and having a beer somewhere, and one of your friends will turn to you and go, "Don't you have to be at the theater?" And you go, "Oh my God," you'll forget about it, that you have to be there. You know what I mean? I used to be, hanging out, and all of a sudden, oh shit, I've got to go to the theater, And then you jump in a cab and get over there, and sometimes I get there like 10 to 8, you know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
And put the costume on and just run right out, With film, it's very different. And the play is different than the movie. Robert Young took the play and changed it, basically. There's a lot of things in the play that aren't in the movie, And I know that Master Simone was not happy with that.
Well, he adapted the screenplay, didn't he? And so
did,
Robert Young.
Like the first few days, I remember Bill was there, and he would be on book, like he was like you do in the theater, and Robert felt certain things weren't working, and we changed a lot of it. Bill was not happy about that, I remember.
Yeah. What I'm curious to know about your character and the kind of the legacy of the play and the film is how did the audiences react to you?
It would vary. The play had a lot more jokes, actually. The Raoul character in the play was humorous, especially in the middle of the play, So, let's say on a Saturday night, the 10 o'clock show, that would be very different because people would have gone to dinner and had a few drinks,
Right.
As opposed to a Wednesday matinee. But when that play was working, you could hear a pin drop in the audience, And a lot of people were terrified. And it's hard to do that every night. That character is very hard to do every night, to go out there and put out every night,
I would imagine.
And, I admit, some nights I would walk through it, depending, how I felt,
Well, but the film wasn't. It's not enough. It's not as part of the vernacular as much as it should be, I think. And even when Farrah Fawcett passed, I didn't see it mentioned very often. I heard The Burning Bed a lot, and Charlie's Angels, obviously, is her past work. But why do you think it was kind of overlooked?
I don't know. I don't know. I had thought the reaction would be greater than it was. I think, the critics, maybe they had trouble seeing her adjust from this pinup girl, Charlie's Angels, to a serious actress. She was a beautiful woman. That stood in the way, I think. And the image of her as this pop icon, it's hard. Same thing like Madonna turning to. I think Madonna, in the movie Dangerous Game was great. But I think the image, overpowers the ability there. And I think that's what happened in Farrah's case.
Yeah. And it's tough stuff, too.
Her image was greater than the piece, which is a little small play, It's not it's rape, right. It's, attempted rape and revenge. It's not, I think that, too, had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it is strong material. It kind of, at times, it's kind of
especially
a little
for
morally...
80, you understand, that's 86, was it, 85?
86, yeah.
Yeah, that was strong for back then.
And it's a summer movie. It came out during the summer.
And it came out in the summer. It should have came out in the fall,
Yeah, I think so, too.
I think Superman was playing at the same time, one of the Superman sequels, It's not...
It's not escapism, Extremities.
And they didn't want me in the play. I remember, it's hard to think back. I know that they didn't want me in the movie. At one point they wanted John Voight. I heard Eric Roberts, I think. they wanted someone waspier. They didn't want someone as dark as me, you know. They wanted, and I remember coming out here and really reaching out to Robert Young and saying, look, I did this show 300 times. No one knows it better. And he had never seen me in the play, Robert. Which, you know, is interesting. Never saw me do it. And I just said, look, I got to do this role. I would, you know, it's ridiculous to hire someone else. I know it. And I think Farrah went to bat for me. I think that.
Well, you guys already had the relationship. I mean, you guys already had that trust down and the material down. I mean, that's a large part of the battle.
And she trusted me, and vice versa. And I think that I don't remember talking to her or having her say, "Don't worry, you're going to get the." We really didn't talk that much after I left the play, and I think she was a little upset that I left the play because I had to get out. I was burnt. I couldn't go to the theater anymore. I was like, my God, I can't do this anymore. And she remained. I think Tom G. Waits replaced me. I went off to do like a minor role in the Cotton Club because I couldn't get out of the play unless I had a job, I think, or a job offer, and I took the first thing, which was this really small role in the Cotton Club. And I think she was not happy about that.
I wanted to ask just one quick question about another of your movies because, I mean, Al Pacino is my kind of acting idol. So anytime I talk to someone that's been around him or performed with him, I always have to ask about it. Tell me about the experience of Donnie Brasco and being around him for that.
Never had so much fun on a movie, especially with Al. Al loves to laugh, and I would tell him jokes all the time. And I mean, the great thing about Donnie Brasco, we had 2 weeks of sitting down and reading the script and going to dinner with everybody and really creating a rapport for that gang, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which Mike Newell, it was very smart from Mike to do that, And, when you're in film school in the early 80s, Pacino was like a god. So to be around him, at first you're like, wow, it's Michael Corleone, Scarface, And then it just became friends.
God, he's great in that movie. I think that's one of his great performances.
And it's funny, you know what, Jamie? I didn't see it when we were doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see what's on that screen now,
We talked about Robert Duvall last time we spoke, and actually I remember Dennis Hopper when he directed him in Colors. He was looking through the lens, looking on the monitor, and he said he's not doing anything. And Robert Duvall said, "Trust me, it's there." And when he saw the dailies, it was all there, but it wasn't apparent on the day.
Right. It was the same thing with watching Al on Donnie Brasco. And the other thing with Al, it wasn't like he went off in a corner and banged his head, or sat there doing some mental exercise before he got in front of the camera. You'd be sitting there joking or talking, and then action, and he'd just walk right into it. So that was kind of deceiving, to not see that process.
And I guess he's been doing it so long now that it's second nature to him. And you've been doing this a long time too. So what is the main difference to your approach, or what you know about acting now as opposed to when you started? I'm
more comfortable than I was when I started. I would torture myself, I think, I got to get this emotion across. I got to get that. When I read the script now, I know, this is, I can do this, And, for me, I'm more of a behavioral actor, It would be very difficult for me to do Shakespeare or do a German accent, I just, I'd rather behave on film rather than act.
Right.
Which, for the most part, is what I do.
And you do it great, my friend. I mean, I love you in everything I see you in. And, I mean, I was happy to see you in Public Enemies. A couple of years back, I remember I remember watching
Yeah,
and
that's
saying,
a
"Hey,
funny
James
story.
Russo."
Public Enemy. Johnny, I asked. I was with Johnny, and he said, "I said, is there anything in there?" He goes, "Yeah, let me talk to Michael Mann." I said, "No, I know Michael. Let's see." And Michael called me, and I had a meeting with him, and he gives me the script. And he goes, "Yeah, there's a great role in there." He goes, "Walter Dietrich. He's the mentor of Dillinger." So I go home, like, wow, man, that sounds like a great role. I'm reading the script, like, where the fuck is Walter Dietrich? There's no Walter Dietrich in this script. And then I read it again, like, oh, Dietrich gets thrown under a car, I'm in the first 2 pages, and I'm like, this is it? So Michael gets, I think I got on the phone, and he was like, what do you think? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, all right, I didn't want to say no,
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be a nice little moment there, though.
Yeah, and I just rewatched it the other day, and that kind of moment where he's holding on to you before you kind of fall.
Yeah,
that's a pretty incredible moment there.
Michael's one of the few serious directors we have left,
And you talk about behavior. I mean, his films and his performances are all about it.
Yeah, I mean, if I was directing, I'd much rather have an actor that's close to that person than have someone just pretend to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I want to, upcoming movies. Are there upcoming projects that you're excited about? I know
there's two.
Project called
I mean,
Benjamin.
I've done a few that are horrible, I mean, it's like baking cookies, You put them in the oven and they come out either lopsided or, There are two, though, that I really like that are coming out. One is called 7E with Brendan Sexton III and John Savage.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a suspense film that's shot in New York that centers on this apartment house on the Upper West Side. And the other one is a Western called Yellow Rock that I did with Michael Biehn.
Thank you for tuning in to the movie Geeks United Summer of 1986 series. Tune in to our next installment, Aliens.